Well, after last week's disappointing episode, this episode leads us in a more promising direction, but not exactly the right direction for the show.
The show that I know you won't tell what I said. These two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Hey guys, camera for Pretty Little Liars, Season 7, Episode 7, Original G Angsters, which, let's just talk about that title for a second. What the fuck? I mean, first of all, it just sounds like them trying to be cool. It shows how ridiculous the show's gotten, but anyway, I wasn't particularly looking forward to this episode, as you guys could tell from last week. I really haven't been liking this season. I think they've just gone a little bit too off the rails. Things have gotten a little bit too crazy, and I think they become much more focused on, let's throw this random plot twist here, or let's do something crazy here, without having much substance to it. And this episode was good. I will say that. I think this was a much better episode than the last one, but the ending of this episode, that really ruined a lot of this episode for me. I definitely do want to talk about that because there is a lot of stuff that is wrong with that ending. But for the most part, I really did enjoy this episode. I thought there was some good stuff going on here. It does show, though, that the death we got last week contributed absolutely nothing to this episode or for the rest of the season. Doesn't impact much of anything, but let's just get in this episode because there actually is stuff to talk about that I definitely do want to talk about. Like I said, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than last week's, but we start off, and I did like the scene in the beginning where we see all the girls are having brunch at the Radley, and they're all talking about how they're all kind of like a family. I thought that was a nice scene, but it felt like something we'd hear in a series finale. I don't really know why they did this scene. It was kind of random. Spencer gives all the girls a name bracelet, a throwback to the name bracelets that Allie gave them all those years ago, which I thought was kind of cool the way they did that, but again, it just felt like, oh, this is the final season, so we're just going to do something random that's heartwarming, and they toast to Aria's engagement, celebrate their friendship. It's a good scene because they all say that they're going to be at Aria's wedding, which I'm assuming is going to be the series finale, is going to be Aria's wedding, but Allie then receives a note in the bill from AD saying that they know the girls killed, Archer, and that's definitely very interesting. Now that AD knows this, they're obviously freaking out, and just then several police officers enter the restaurant and they take the elevator upstairs, and Emily discovers from here that Sarah Harvey has died and tells the other shocked liars, and obviously they're very shocked about it, but it kind of just goes away after this. I mean, there is stuff about Sarah's death after this, but it just doesn't really contribute to much of anything, and again, I just don't really think she was the one to kill. I think the person to have killed would have been, say, Mona or someone like that, who would have had a bigger impact on the show and who we've known longer. Because here's the thing, we've only known Sarah for a season and a half. I mean, we haven't even known her for that long, so that's really why, to me, especially in the final season, Sarah was not the character to kill off, in my opinion, at least. I know there's probably going to be another death coming, but for right now, I just don't really think Sarah was the one to kill. But then we see Jenna, who I have to say, Tammin Surzak, I think, did a very good job here. She's always really good, but I think in this episode, she was definitely very good. Jenna's in tears as the police are questioning her about Sarah's death, and Emily tells the others that Sarah tried to warn her about someone other than Jenna, and even though Jenna had a file on her computer labeled Charlotte De Laurentiis, Spencer decides that the girls have to steal Jenna's laptop to look at the file, and the others agree that that's the best thing to do. Then in order for them to, get this information, they need to steal the laptop, because that has all the information they need, and I thought that was a really good scene. Afterwards, Emily goes on a run with her mom, we see, and the two discuss her mom's birthday and what their plans will be. I don't think we've seen Emily's mom in quite some time, and the show does acknowledge that, which I did like seeing. I like seeing them, catch up with Emily's mom. I thought that definitely was a good scene. And I do like seeing the girls, parents, after this 5-year time jump. It's interesting to watch. I like seeing that. It shows like what they've been up to, and just like Emily, she hasn't really been up too much. It kind of seems like she's, up to the same thing. And at the brew, Spencer sees Jenna talking to Toby, and after Jenna leaves, Spencer tells Toby that Jenna has told the girls that the reason she came back was so she could celebrate his engagement with him, and that's the main reason why. So, that's, of course, what Jenna essentially said, but we find out in this episode there's a lot more going on with Toby and Jenna than we thought, and Toby denies this, tells Spencer that Jenna is in Rosewood because she's looking for forgiveness, and that I thought was very interesting, because obviously we knew that there was more of a reason why she was there. But here's the thing I don't like. They made it seem like she was guilty, and now we know that she's not guilty, and I don't know. The flashback that they give us in this episode, it's important, yes, but it's also the final season, and I don't really know why we needed this flashback now. It kind of just feels like this is a random story they came up with to justify what the relation between Toby and Jenna was, and I just don't really think it was necessary to do so. But anyways, getting to the flashback, we see Toby tells the story of a fight between the two that was alluded to in a previous episode. Toby and Jenna both went on vacation with their parents, and while the two were reconnecting, Jenna tried to kiss him, which was very strange, we see. Of course, they were step-siblings, but again, very strange the way that was done, and I don't really know how I feel about this twist. It's very strange, and how most people thought about the Charlotte reveal, that's how I feel about this. I just don't really know if Jenna would try to kiss Toby. It just feels very strange. And back in the present, Toby tells Spencer that Jenna left later that night after he rejected her advances, and I guess he's thinking that she's liked him ever since, but I thought Jenna was a lesbian. I mean, they've kind of presented her as a lesbian, but apparently she's not, and Toby then receives a call requesting police at his residence, and he rushes off to find out what has happened, basically, because he's obviously very worried about what's going on with that. Here's my biggest thing, though, with the whole Toby thing. I really hope they're not trying to set up Toby and Jenna, because if they are, I think it's just going to be really dumb if they are. Like I said, it seems like this season they're trying to scrap all the new relationships out the window and go back to previous relationships, and I just don't think it's necessary to do that. Especially if they're doing Toby and Jenna, I'm really against that. I don't think it's the show to do that. I don't really think the show should tackle something like that. And Pretty Little Liars can tackle a lot of really dark things, but incest is not one of the things that I'm going to get behind. I just can't really get behind that. It's weird, and I just don't really like that. But the best stuff in this episode, by far, no surprise, involves Allie, Mary Drake, and the return of Jason. That was the best stuff in this episode by far. We see Allie and Mary are painting over the sinister AD message in Allie's old room, basically so they can erase AD. You know, obviously AD's there, but they kind of want to move on from that, and I did like seeing that. And Jason then comes home, and I gotta say, I really don't like the locks that Jason has. I just don't really think it goes with the character. But he's ecstatic to see Allie, but not Mary, we see. For some reason, he's not happy to see her. He hands her a court order appointing himself as Allie's guardian, and he kicks Mary out of the house. So you know there's obviously some sort of beef between Mary and Jason, and this is the reason why I like the episode so much. I thought the stuff between Jason and Mary, you know, what the connection was between those two, that stuff I thought was very interesting, because there was obviously something that went down there, and Allie and Jason then confront each other over Mary and you know, Archer, because obviously Jason knew of Archer, as well as Jason's continued absence from her life, because there's obviously a reason why he left, and Allie asked Jason to give Mary a chance, because she's really starting to trust Mary, and I like that this episode, again, they got us back on Mary's side, but that's the thing that's so confusing about the season. It seems like one episode they tell us, yes, trust Mary. The next episode they're like, no, don't trust Mary. And I do think it works here, but again, I just can't really figure out if the show wants us to trust her or not to trust her. And I get that this is a show where everyone's supposed to be guilty and everyone's supposed to be a suspect. But if you keep beating it like a dead horse, you can trust her or not trust her. It's just a big character flaw. I really want to know, you know, can I trust this woman? Can I not trust this woman? I don't fully understand it, and I just didn't really like the way that was done. I think they could have done that a lot better, but meanwhile, Yvonne is at the hospital while Spencer waits, and Hannah tells Spencer that she stole a hotel key card from her mom so they can investigate Sarah and Jenna's rooms, which I thought was a very smart idea. Obviously, AD was in Sarah's room, so knowing that, they could get into there and see what evidence is there. And elsewhere, Aria and Ezra have met with a wedding planner, and I did like seeing that there's actual wedding planning going on here. You know, they're not just disregarding this proposal. You know, my only thing is, like I said, I don't really think we need that whole episode last week about her, oh, should I have this wedding or not? Is this actually the right thing to do? And I get that the reasoning behind it was because she didn't know if she was ready or not. I understand that, but Ezra, overwhelmed, suggested instead of having a big fancy wedding, the two should elope at his friend's villa in Tuscany, which I think is kind of a good way to do it. It seems like they want to do that, but that kind of makes me think the wedding's going to be fairly soon, the way he said that, and Aria agrees to think about it, which I think is definitely interesting, the way that's going. And then Hannah decides to investigate at the Radley solo using her mom's key card, and in Sarah's room she discovers a case under the bed. But before she's able to investigate further, Caleb walks into the room, and I'm like, no, don't do what I think you're doing. Clearly, you can tell they're trying to get Caleb and Hannah back together, and you guys know I'm very much against this. I really don't like... See, I'm one of the few people, and I know it might be shocking you guys, but I actually like Spoby. I kind of think that Spencer and Toby worked pretty well. I thought they had good chemistry. I mean, not Spoby, Spaleb. I like Spencer and Caleb. I thought they really worked well together. They had very good chemistry together, and I like the relationship overall. I don't really think that they needed to break them up. I honestly don't really know why they did this. I think it was really dumb, and it really seems like they're trying to get Spencer with that Marco guy, and I think it's really unnecessary the way they're doing that. But basically, the fact they're trying to get Caleb and Hannah back together, it's whatever. But I thought this was a good scene, nevertheless, basically because he walks in the room and Hannah's mom hired him, we realize, as hotel security, and he agrees to help. Now, this did kind of seem like this was the one way they're going to keep him on the show, because it kind of seemed like he was about to walk away, and it's like, oh, no, we're going to keep Caleb on the show, and I understand why they want to keep him on the show, but I just don't really think at this point he really needs to be there. At this point, it seems like Caleb is only there just so he can be a love interest to either Hannah or Spencer, and I really want him to give them more of a purpose than that. Tyler Blackburn is a very good actor, and I want them to give him more to do. Ezra and Aria then continue discussing eloping when Aria gets a text from Jason asking her to meet him, and that gives us to a very interesting scene a little bit later on. But at work, we see Emily bumps into Noel, which, let me just talk about this. We saw Noel in that one episode, was not talked about at all last week, and is brought back this week, so you definitely know that Noel's behind something, but I completely forgot about the whole Noel plot point because they didn't talk about it last week, so I'm happy that they did talk about it here, because obviously I want to remember, about Noel and how they don't really trust him right now, and I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see what he really is playing, because you can tell he has ulterior motives, but we don't really know what those are. So then we get this very strange scene between Aria and Jason. They meet up for coffee, and she tells him about her engagement with Ezra, Ezra and I don't know why I just said Ezra, and she asks him if he's told anyone about them, and the two agree to keep whatever happened between them a secret. So I'm thinking that the two hooked up or something like that. I don't really know. A very strange scene. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. I do kind of like that we have this whole thing between Aria and Jason, but if it turns out to be something just like a random hookup, then who cares? Why does it matter so much? I don't really understand why this is such a big deal. I don't know why this is coming up all of a sudden. She's engaged to Ezra. I don't know why this matters. This was before she was with Ezra. She was with Liam at the time. I don't really know why this matters, but whatever. But the real reason he's there is because he wants her help with Ali, and tells her that before he left Ethiopia, he discovered that the Carassimi's group nonprofit had been drained of funds, meaning that Archer didn't just take all of Ali's money, he took all of the business's money as well, and he believes that Mary is definitely involved in this theft. And again, this is just what I don't like. It seems like they want us to trust Mary, but you kind of get why Jason doesn't trust her, obviously, because of the fact that he believes that she's involved in this, which I think does make sense why he believes that. But why is the show trying to make us get behind Mary? Why are they trying to make us like her? I just don't get it. It's not really working for me. It seems like every scene it's like, trust her, don't trust her, trust her, don't trust her, and it's really starting to piss me off. I really want to see, can I trust this woman or not? I really can't figure it out, I have to say. And I get that that's the point, but it's just kind of getting annoying the way they're doing that. So Caleb then poses as a massage therapist and gives Jenna a massage, taking the opportunity to go through her purse, because obviously there could be something with that, and Hannah fills in Spencer on finding a lockbox in Sarah's room, and tells Spencer that she hasn't told Caleb about her breakup with Jordan yet, which I honestly could give less of a fuck about. I don't really care at this point, and Caleb steals the key from Jenna, gives it to Spencer and Hannah, who find that the box is just filled with papers, tons of papers, and as they're photographing each page, someone ends up entering the room, forcing the two to hide, and the unknown person opens the box and puts in what appears to be Mary's patient file, and the person's revealed to be none other than Noel, who places a call to a Dr. Cochran and says angrily into the phone as he leaves a message that he's running out of patients. So I'm just assuming here that Noel most likely is working with AD, and this Dr. Cochran is a code name for AD. That's what I'm thinking, at least. I'm thinking that Noel is definitely in cahoots with AD. Those two are definitely working together, but that's pretty much what I think, because obviously Sarah would not work with AD, because AD wouldn't just kill Sarah for no reason. I think that's kind of out of the question if Sarah was working with AD or not. I think definitely Noel's working with AD, and I think we definitely do get that confirmation here. So Emily's mom then comes to the Radley to celebrate her birthday with Emily, but a noisy bachelorette party ruins their night, and Emily's mom confesses that she feels guilty having fun since Emily's dad's death. And I thought that was a nice scene, like the way that was done. Meanwhile, Hannah and Caleb go over some of the papers from the box, and Caleb discovers that some of the papers continue readouts of Mary's DNA, and Mary, Ali, and Jason then sit down for dinner. Aria shows up as an invited guest of Jason's, and I mean, that seems kind of suspicious, definitely. But at the hospital, Spencer checks on Yvonne, who we find was only mildly injured after their home was broken into, and the Mary Drake file was stolen. And Spencer begs Toby to take Yvonne and leave Rosewood for their own safety. Which, honestly, I get what Spencer's trying to say here. And this is something that I do like. I like that they're not trying to get Spencer and Toby back together, because again, I've said it before, those two can't be together. We clearly saw before the time jump, all the struggles they were having, all the reasons they couldn't be together. There is a bevy of reasons why these two can't be together, and I'm happy that the show at least is remembering that they can't get Spencer and Toby back together. And I like that Spencer wants Toby to get out of town, because clearly Rosewood is a very unsafe area right now, and I don't really understand. I mean, we understand obviously why the girls are there, because they want to solve this mystery, but I don't really understand why anyone resides in Rosewood when all this shit keeps happening. I mean, it's honestly a good question. Why would you stay in this town when all these murders are happening? It's just probably not the best idea. But anyway, back in Radley, the noisy bridal group sends Emily and her mom free drinks, and at dinner, Jason and Aria confront Allie about the missing Carassimi money, and Mary tells the group that as soon as Jason and Allie were old enough to have any memories of her, Jessica forbid her to see them, we find out. And she also reveals that she was the mysterious guest staying in their Aunt Carol's house years ago when Jason was looking for a place to hide out after his close call in the elevator. And we then see this flashback that shows that the two inside the house shortly after Jessica told Mary that Charles was dead. And Jessica refuses to tell Mary about how Charles died and told Mary to never come back, and she then hid in Aunt Carol's storm cellar until Mary left. And the other three are surprised to hear that the house had a storm cellar. I guess they never heard about it. I don't really know. But Aria goes to Radley to tell Emily about the storm cellar and suggests that the girls go investigate, obviously, because there's something going on with the storm cellar. And she tells Emily that Ezra wants to elope tomorrow, but she's really unsure whether or not she should. And Emily convinces Aria to elope, and I really hope they're not rushing into this wedding, because I really want this wedding to be the series finale, and I don't want this to be something where they get these two together, and then they cop out and try to get Aria and Jason together. If that's what they're doing, I'm going to be really pissed off, because I think Aria and Ezra, those are two that I would say, yes, they should be together. I mean, those are two that they've been together since the beginning of the show. Out of all the couples, like I said, I don't really ship things, but that is a couple that I think they should be together. I think it's just the most logical choice for the show, and it's definitely a hell of a lot more logical than whatever the hell's going on between Aria and Jason. I like it, but I just don't want them to possibly get them together, which I'm kind of worried that the show is leaning towards. So, meanwhile, Caleb and Hannah continue to pour through the papers from the lockbox, and Hannah tells Caleb about her breakup with Jordan, and she asks Caleb if the two of them are still friends after all the drama that happened with Spencer. And Caleb assures her that they are, which, okay, keep them friends, please. Don't get them back together. Keep them friends. I think it's the best thing to do, is to keep them friends. I think just right now, I really don't want these two to get back together, because now it seems like the only reason they, split up Spencer and Toby was to get Hannah and Caleb back together. And I think it's really, split up Spencer and Caleb is to get Hannah and Caleb back together, and I don't really think that's the right direction to go. So Toby shows up at Spencer's bar and confides that he was really billing the house for Spencer, but when he received the call about Yvonne being hurt, he realized that he can't live without her. And it's a really good scene. I honestly really did believe that Toby likes this girl, and Yvonne has family in Maine. He's decided that they're going to move there instead of staying in Rosewood, and Spencer's devastated at the prospect of Toby leaving, and I'm going to say right now, I don't think Toby's leaving. I mean, we know the show. It seems in the direction that he's not going to leave, especially with this whole Jenna drama. I don't think he's going to be leaving, but we'll have to see. If he is leaving, then good. I mean, that'd be the logical thing to do, but again, it seems this show is so focused on getting back past relationships that I don't really know if he's going to leave. We'll have to see. And at Aunt Carol's house, Allie, Hannah, Emily, and Spencer go into the root cellar to investigate, and the cellar is full of flies about the girls, and Mary, except Aria's file, is missing. They discover that Mary had a second child their age, and the cellar is full of photos of the girls, and Allie's convinced that Jessica had been searching for the whole time she was on the run, and while they're still in the cellar, Spencer's car alarm goes off, and while the girls jump inside, Spencer realized that the keys had been stolen just when the door was shut. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was a very well done, intense scene. I honestly was kind of on the edge of my seat with this scene. I thought this was a good scene here, and the timer starts counting down, and a timer reaches 0. The root cellar ends up exploding, and the girls receive a message from AD saying that if they discover AD's identity before AD finds Charlotte's killer, then they're all gonna die. Now, obviously, they're not gonna kill them off. Not everyone's gonna die here, but as they're watching the cellar burn, someone goes up to the back window and writes, I see you, and reminding viewers of when Noel Khan wrote the same message on the back of Ezra's car, and when he first discovered Ezra and Aria, when he first discovered that Ezra and Aria were intimate, which is very interesting. So this basically makes us think that, I think this basically confirms that Noel is working with AD. I don't really think we need any more confirmation than this. This very well confirms that those two obviously are working together. And then we get this really bizarre ending, because I really do want to talk about this. And when I heard about this, I mean, I didn't know what to think, because basically we go to Ezra and Aria. They're packing to leave for their trip to Tuscany, and the FBI shows up at Ezra's door to tell him that Nicole, yes, Nicole, the one that we were led to believe has been dead all this time, you know, the one that Ezra wrote a book about, the one that he's been mourning, well, it turns out she may actually still be alive. And I'm just shaking my head at this. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. This is stupid. It's really dumb the way they did that, and I don't like anything about it. But AD's then shown with two files, one for Aria, one for Noel. AD then burns the Noel file, and he begins looking through Aria. So there's clearly some sort of connection between AD and Aria, and that is how the episode ends. But let's get into this episode at all, my predictions for next week. So overall, guys, this episode was a real mixed bag for me. I liked it, a lot of things about it I thought was a lot better than last week, such as everything with Jason. I thought the stuff with Jason, Mary, and Allie were really good, because you really do understand why Jason doesn't really trust Mary now. He really does believe that she's in cahoots with AD, and that she's working with AD. He fully believes that, and you can totally understand why he believes that. But all this relationship stuff, I'm really not a fan of. It really seems like they're just trying to break up all these couples to just break them up for random reasons. You know, oh, Ezra and Aria, we're going to get Aria and Jason together. I'm assuming some sort of hookup happened between them. Why does this matter, though? It really doesn't. It was all of these, you know, years ago. Why does it really matter? I don't really know why we're touching upon this now. But this whole thing with Nicole being alive, if she's actually alive, I might just stop watching this show, because it's a ridiculous twist. It's really dumb. We went through all of this mourning for Ezra. We went through all of this him moving on, and now you're telling me she's dead. It feels completely pointless. It feels completely just randomly written to, again, it's like what I said, that the show just randomly wants to throw twists at us just to shock us, because people feel the show's boring when they don't have twists. And honestly, the show's good at twists, but a twist like this, it just feels so out of left field. It doesn't at all go with what they're talking about, and I think if Nicole is alive, they really need to rethink about everything they've been doing with Ezra's character, because everything up till now has been about Ezra mourning Nicole, and I think they just might have ruined that entire arc. I don't really know. I'm hoping she's not alive. I'm also hoping, though, that Ezra and Aria don't get married in the next episode, because it really does seem like they want to rush into this marriage, so that way they can get Ezra and Aria, get them to break up, and then get Aria and Jason together, and I really hope that's not what they're doing. Is Toby really gonna leave? I mean, the episode kind of leaves us under the impression that he might leave. I don't really know, though. We'll have to see what happens with that. That's gonna be very interesting if he does end up leaving. I don't really know. I think it's the best thing for him to do, like I said, to leave with Yvonne. It's obviously the most logical thing to do, but I don't really know what's gonna happen there. And also, what is Aria's connection to this whole AD thing? Obviously, there's a file about Aria. We don't really know what it is. What's the connection between her and Noel? We know they have a history together, but we just don't really know what it is yet. I think that overall is going to be very interesting. Hannah and Caleb, I just want them to keep them as friends. Please keep them as friends. They don't need to be any more than that. I hope they're just friends. I think it's the best thing for them to do. Overall, guys, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than last week's. I did think it was a lot better. There was a lot of really good stuff going on here. It's just a lot of what was going on. The things that pissed me off really did piss me off. But the things I really liked, I really did like. Like I said, the season really is a mixed bag for me. The only reason I'm really watching, guys, is because I want to see the show end. And episodes like this do give me faith. But it's still not like episode 5, which I still think is the best episode of the season. This episode, for me, have you cut out all this relationship stuff, then I really would have enjoyed this episode overall. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. And I will see you guys in the next show, which will finally be for Mr. Robots. I can't wait to give you my thoughts on that, because there's a lot to talk about with that, obviously. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.